This is KSL Sunday Edition with Deanie Wimmer.
Welcome to Sunday Edition, where we focus on stories that uplift, inform, and celebrate Utah communities. And this week, one topic that families across the state are preparing for: back to school.
Our parents should feel 100% confident that their children are safe.
From adding a layer of protection with armed guardians,
we hope that they never need to use it, but if they do, they're prepared.
To learning how to respond to injuries, Utah is stepping up its classroom safety and security measures.
We are safer today than we were a year and a half ago.
Plus, steals and deals.
I don't think we're going to beat $5.
We put stores to the test to show you if you'll be paying more this year for school supplies. This new school year brings unprecedented safety measures. Utah law requires every school to have armed guardians, teacher panic buttons, and bleed kits, among other things. This week, Alpine School District demonstrated their readiness to the lawmaker behind these policies.
Go ahead and start packing that wound.
Trauma nurses from Intermountain Health are giving educators in the Alpine School District a tough assignment.
Okay, it's still bleeding. We need to go to a tourniquet.
We're teaching teachers how to stop bleeding, severe bleeding that could occur with injuries of any kind. We know that usually hemorrhage is the #1 cause of death with any type of injury. And if we can teach our community members how to control that bleeding, our outcomes are much better.
So you're teaching two things. It looks like one is a tourniquet.
A tourniquet. The other is to apply pressure and to pack the wound. So we always start with packing the wound and applying pressure first. We hold that for 30 seconds to 3 minutes. If that doesn't work, we move to the tourniquet at that point.
It's pretty harsh stuff to teach teachers, and yet I just heard her say it can be life-saving.
It is life-saving. Sadly, with the Sandy Hook incident several years ago, trauma surgeons found that most of those victims could have survived had someone known how to control the bleeding. So that's when Stop the Bleed was implemented nationwide for the communities to learn, because even though it is overwhelming, it's very easy to learn and it's very life-saving.
It's not lost on these teachers, though, what they're learning to do, right?
Yes, these teachers, they're amazing, and they're with the kids, many hours during the day, several hours during the day, and injuries can happen on the playground, anywhere in the school, actually. And so now we feel that they'll be better prepared in case there is an injury that has severe bleeding.
You hope that they'll never need to use it.
Yeah, we hope that they never need to use it, but if they do, they're prepared.
This is part of legislation sponsored by Representative Ryan Wilcox that made sweeping security changes to Utah schools, including these bleed kits, panic buttons, and armed guardians. It came after the school shootings in Uvalde, Texas, when parents were asking lawmakers, how safe are our schools?
And the answer was it largely just depends. And even within a given district, it depends on the principal in that school, whether or not they take it seriously. It depends on how old the school was, the design of the school, all these factors that the real answer that we didn't want to give all these parents that were emailing and calling was, we don't know. And that's why the whole thing started, is that we started doing an assessment and trying to take an honest look at where we are. What do we need to change? And is there something that we need to adjust? And it turns out there was a lot. So to bring that gap up between not just the haves and have-nots, but your kid shouldn't be 50% more at risk because of the school that they happen to be in, or because of the district they happen to be in. And not just bringing that line tighter together, but making sure that all our kids are worried about, like you just heard here from the district a minute ago, when they come to school is learning. But that requires the adults to look at it differently. We have to be more prepared.
You told me in there that you feel like we're safer, we're better off than we were.
We're far better off than we were when we started, yeah. Yeah, and it's still too slow for me.
You're not done.
No, we're not anywhere near done.
Representative Wilcox told me so far the state has spent more than $250 million on specific safety measures, and he's looking to find ongoing funding on this effort. Now, in Washington County, they're seeing strong support for the Armed Guardian program.
We had Washington County School District employees coming out of the woodworks to volunteer for this program.
Our parents should feel 100% confident that their children are safe and secure while they're in our buildings.
The school district says they have armed guardians for each of the school's 56 buildings, and they even have a few extra volunteers who can float from school to school as needed. Those leading the program feel confident that the added protection they can provide.
To know that there are other people out there that are there to help us as law enforcement, and know that they are that first immediate defense for a school until we can get there, really makes us sleep better at night.
It's gone so well there that the local sheriff's office says multiple counties have called them, asking them how they've had so much success. They attribute that to the support they're getting from the district and everyone in the community. Alpine and Washington that you just saw are how schools all around Utah are trying to comply with these new safety laws. I talked with the state security chief, Matt Pennigton, about the laws and how parents can feel reassured.
So there's a lot happening. Some of the big stuff is State Board is funding through 2024 legislative funds. They're funding the panic alert devices for all the schools, the bleed kits.
All schools will have the panic
first
buttons.
aid. Yep, so the teachers will have the panic button that connects directly to the dispatch center, which we've seen in other events in the country was really important in getting help there quickly. So that's being funded by the state. The bleed kits, stopping the bleed, the first aid kits is all being funded by the state, a variety of other things.
And that means that each school will have one of those, in the worst case scenario, the ability to address.
So, yep, rule requires one for every classroom, and then a larger first aid kit, a basic first aid kit in large gathering areas. So think gymnasium, auditorium, front office.
The big one that's gotten a lot of attention is the school guardian.
Sure.
Talk about what that's going to look like.
So guardian trainings have started statewide. They're, for the most part, being run all over the state. I think every county has at least started that, and we have quite a few volunteers in that program. They're a teacher, they're an assistant principal, they're a coach, something. They already have a salary. They're volunteering for the program. They'll go through training that the county security chief or local agencies put on. And then they also will have the ability to function in that role only in case of an emergency. So don't think they're not getting involved in day-to-day stuff outside of their scope of employment. But
they're doing their normal school job.
Yep, but worst case scenario, if something happens, they're there to confront the attack.
Have you had a hard time, or have schools had a hard time filling those roles?
Yes and no. Majority of school districts, I think, have had quite a few volunteers now meeting some of the requirements as far as not being a principal or a teacher. That's been, varying degrees of success depending on where they're from in Utah. But that's where the alternative requests come in, and we can approve that on a case-by-case basis for somebody outside of the statutory role to fill that requirement.
And did a lot of schools ask for a variance or a...
About a third of the schools that submitted the assessment asked for some type of approved alternative. Of that, we approved about 60% of those, as long as it was a reasonable request.
So in a lot of our maybe smaller schools, is it fair to say that administrators or educators have been allowed to service the guardian role?
Yeah, somebody outside of what the statute's allowing, yeah. Where it's, would say it's not a teacher ideally or a principal, and that's for a specific reason. The teacher's responsible for protecting the classroom, the principal or the director is responsible for running the school. So the reason the law says that is ideally you want somebody that's main role isn't those two things. But worst case, if those are the only people they have and it's reasonable that they can accomplish that job and they got a plan to make sure the classroom's still safe if the teacher leaves or the principal's not on site, then we consider that.
Initially when this was passed, it was a big deal and a big change. Have schools come around, or what's kind of been the reaction?
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of change for the schools in year one. A lot of things were coming forward, and I think after year two of legislation where some things changed, some things were addressed, we fixed some things that maybe weren't working how we thought they were working. It seems like post the legislative session this year, everyone seems to be on board and at least moving in the right direction.
What about requirements on the actual buildings?
My team, along with the fire marshal's team, is coming up with a plan so that we're working together and not, going up against each other messaging-wise to make sure that the plans being reviewed for new schools or remodels are making sure that they're day one compliant with some of that.
To walk some parents through, like each school will have a separate entryway that's secure.
Yeah, so eventually you should have a secured or a limited point of entry where everyone comes and checks in. There should be a proper visitor management practice. It's just not good practice to let the public walk into your school without being checked. Not just from a violent standpoint, but just a general safety. So.
Doors that lock on the inside of classrooms.
Yep, so classroom, state-adopted standard response protocol messaging, which includes lockdown. That's part of the standard response protocol. Lockdown would be defined as securing individual classrooms or areas of instruction. So in summary, it would be lock the door, lights out, get out of sight to a safe corner of the classroom. So moving forward, every classroom or instructional area will need to be able to lock down.
And they do drills. They have mandatory drills.
They should be doing drills, yep.
What about film on the windows?
Yep, so the film, again, that was part of what was at least codified as far as timeline goes.
Overall, how are you feeling about the safety of schools now that all these changes have taken place?
Yeah, I think we're progress, not perfection, right? And I think it's always a constantly evolving thing as things change and technology changes and the environments change. We're trying to balance not only making sure the environment's safe, but accomplishing what the school's there for, which is to teach our kids. But as you've recently seen around the country, these events aren't stopping.
Should parents feel reassured after this process?
Yeah, I would say we are safer today than we were a year and a half ago, and especially in the sense that they're moving in the right direction.
Chief Pennigton also mentioned that his team will be doing spot checks throughout the year at all of the state's 1,100 schools to make sure that they are continuing to meet these requirements. A return to the classroom also means a return to school sports, the addition being made at many high schools in an effort to keep student athletes safe. And school supply shopping, the one item inflation buster Matt Gephardt found will actually be more this year. Those stories coming up next.